What's up, everyone? We're here for the Total Human Optimization Podcast with my man, Cody No Love Garbrandt. What's up, my friend?
Not much, man. Enjoying the On an Academy experience.
Yeah, we got a little workout in today.
Yeah.
Ate some barbecue.
Yeah. Got it in.
So your second time out here.
Second time.
You came back a couple years ago. Man, things have changed dramatically.
Yes, it has.
In that time. You know, because you had just started with the UFC when you came out. You know, just kind of almost celebrating that first contract.
Yeah, I was out here for they had an Austin card. Actually, first time coming On an Academy too. And I got signed that weekend. So it was, I haven't been out here since. Now my first time back since, being in the UFC, nearly almost 2 years. And then now I'm fighting for a title, coming back to On It. So it's good vibes for this place.
Yeah, pivotal moments only.
Yeah, pivotal.
On It. So first of all, I want you to talk about, the difference between your DM on Instagram then versus now. I mean, clearly it's way more popping.
It's way more popping. But it's good because I'm in a relationship. So the new Instagram feature has the ones that you have to accept the DMs before they can send them to you.
Why is that good? Because now it's your fault.
I'm a better man. I'm a better man because I'm in a relationship.
So now it's your fault. Before they had that feature,
they just send
it's
it
like,
to you.
Listen, I had no control over that ass shot that came.
Yeah, it just came.
I'm just looking for sponsors.
It was a glitch. It was a glitch. I want to say it's a glitch. No, that's good.
Yeah, but on a serious tip though, I mean you've been on a hell of a run. I mean, undefeated in the UFC. How many fights has it been in the UFC now?
5 now.
5.
5. Yep.
And all of them decisive. Taking care of business, putting people out.
That's how I like to do it,
Yeah.
Get in there, get out, cash 2 checks, and get on to the next one.
Right. So tell us a little bit about kind of how this journey started. You were talking at lunch, at least from the point that you came to Team Alpha Male, where you just you had a little injury and then you just decided to jump in and show up at Team Alpha Male and jump in some fucking sparring right away.
Yeah. I had my, pro debut, so I was like, excited for it. Broke my hand in the debut.
How'd you break it? On his head?
Yeah, punched him right in the forehead. Broke my first metal culprit. My bone snapped straight in half.
Yeah.
And finishing him a couple minutes later with some elbows. And then had surgery, had to rehab. Was getting ready for my next fight. And started getting like super dizzy when I was training. Like almost like the drunk spins kind of. When you get drunk, you have those spins. I didn't know what it was. I mean,
maybe some other people would know that.
Yeah, maybe.
I've never gotten that drunk, Cody. Who are you talking to?
Yeah. So I was training for my next fight, and I had those spins where I'd lay down, even like do anything. I was like looking left or right. I got blood work done, and finally went to Dr. Collins in UPMC and had a symptom of vertigo from like so many small concussions. Like not even, I didn't even know what a concussion was really. I mean, obviously you get hit, see some stars, it's a little concussion, but those ones are actually more dangerous than getting like laid the fuck out.
So was that from your amateur career or was that just from boxing?
I think it was just from my whole life career. I remember the first major concussion I got was like 6 years old. My brother kicked me down the stairs on rollerblades and I was knocked out cold.
Rude.
So I've had I got him back for it, dude. I remember we used to go down to the basement and play like rollerblades, with the basketball. We had to get to one end. It was on cement, and it was my grandma's, basement. So we did that, and after that happened, she didn't let us go in the basement for like 3 months. So finally, she let us go down and play hockey again. I remember we had those old rollerblades, with the big old brakes on it.
Yeah.
And I remember that I was 6, 7 years old, and I remember my brother pushed me down the steps on rollerblades. And my feet kicked out from under me and hit my head all the way down, knocked out. Had to go to the hospital. I was 6 years old, didn't even know what was going on. I'm putting my skates on. Zach's all excited, yeah, we get to play again down here. It's awesome. This is the basement. I put my skate on. I latched up real tight. And I was sitting on my ass, and I kicked up and kicked him with the brake pad of my skate in his temple, and not shitting his it was a Looney Tune cartoon. That thing swelled up like this right in the temple. So yeah, I was like, man, that was payback.
Just plotting
so
your revenge.
Oh yeah, for 3 months. I remember
that's
that.
like some Count of Monte Cristo shit.
Yeah, I was doing that shit at 6 years old. Yeah, I had to survive.
You were just hanging on to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I got him back for that. But so yeah, I did that for a little bit, and I had to go through the UPMC with Dr. Collins, which is actually Sidney Crosby's concussion doctor. He went through their program. The NFL, actually, Roger Goodell, he adopted that program into the NFL.
And what's the protocol there? It's a lot of do they do the eye movements and the gyroscopes and stuff like that?
All that stuff. First, it was at a it's BPPV, which is a symptom of vertigo from so many concussions, and the crystals were knocked out into like a regular tube in my ear. It was throwing my balance off and like making me dizzy. So I had to do vestibular therapy. Super crazy. I had to put these goggles on and then like throw yourself back to where it would get yourself spinning. And basically they put like a vibrator on your head and like vibrate the crystals back into the tube where I can see it through your eyes where the the crystals are going. So we did that for a while, and then I got the crystals back in, felt good, and then we had to do my eyes were off. They're all on a triangle eyes, and everything goes together. So I had to strengthen my eyes, my depth perception, and I did that for probably 6 months. So I nearly had like a year layoff almost, and I got cleared, and I was like, you know what? I always had it in my mind to go out to Team Alpha Male because they had some of the best fighters in the world.
Totally, especially at your weight. Yeah.
Especially at my weight, and I always was like watching what they were doing, watching their fights, Raya, Danny, Chad, all these guys out there. I was like, you know what, I can be stay here and do it, or I can go out there and see, how I match up against those guys. I always believed in myself, believed I was going to be the world champion, but you didn't know until you really went out and tested yourself. I was like, I already had a year layoff. That kind of that injury, really lit a fire under me to be like, it's that could have been, I could never fought again from that. Luckily I was, got healed and got the right, medical, rehab to get better, and then I didn't waste no time. Went out there, and a whole year layoff. I remember going out there. It was the first week. It was sparring like Danny Castillo, Chad, Joe, TJ, Chris Holdsworth, Feely, Faber, all these guys. My first day, I haven't even like did any martial arts, any cardio. Like I was hell out of shape. But I just went out there and just like fought, just like on survival mode. Went out there. I was like, I knew that was my ticket. Like if I got recognized or noticed, that they'd hopefully invite me back. That was the first step, like getting back. Going out there, getting noticed, getting invited to be on the team, because I didn't know how that worked. An outsider. I'm covered in tattoos. All of those motherfuckers were trying to take my head off. Everyone. Danny was trying to swing for the fences, and they were all, because I was out there and I was like 170 pounds. Like I didn't fight for a whole year. I was just lifting. Out there all big. And
what do you walk around at normally?
Right now I'm like since I've been out there, I had totally their lifestyle of training out there is like eat, sleep, eat, train, sleep, I fucked that up. It's the other way around, but yeah. So just how they're training, so like I was just lifting heavy weights, and so usually about 150, 155. I don't try to get too much bigger. So I don't like to cut weight.
I mean, 170 seems fucking huge.
It's horrible.
For you.
I hated it. I didn't do any cardio. Like I said, a whole year left. I was just good, because all I could do was like, without like throwing my symptoms up of getting dizzy and stuff, I could just like lift. I couldn't like even walk on the Stairmaster. That like the up and down like pounding of walking even hurt.
So that's a bold move though, coming in fresh off concussion rehab.
Yeah,
and sparring some of the best guys in the world.
Yeah,
I mean them taking your head off, or you trying to take their head off?
It was both.
There's a little bit of
I was just so excited being out there. I was like, dude, I'm out Team Alpha Man. I'm like punching Danny in the face, I'm punching all, we're fighting these guys. You watch on the TV, I just think I was turning it up, and the thing is, I didn't get tired. I was like, man, my cardio was great. I hadn't done cardio in a year. It was just like a mentality thing. I think just the energy of the room, them guys going in there, it was awesome. Sparring with those guys, but I remember just going out there and just throwing heat, 8 rounds deep with these guys, some of the best in the world, and brought my confidence up going and being able to compete with those guys. And then remember walking off the mat, and Uriah was like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I was 1-0 at the time. Like I said, a whole year layoff. Really, just came out there out of blue, showed up. I remember I was doing community classes, the kickboxing, those like turbo kickboxing class. We were doing all kind of spinning shit with this instructor, Dion, that was out there. It was a fun class. I didn't know the schedule. I was like, I'm trying to get in the pro class. They had the pro class in the morning. So I was doing that for a couple, because it was a weekend. I got in the weekend, and it was like kind of open mat, so I had to wait the whole week, the weekend to go. And remember he came in, it was like the last day I was leaving, and he's like, what do you, paired me up with all his guys. And I was like, oh, I know what he's doing, and he put me with all these guys. I kept trying to single out this one dude, because I was like tired. I was like, I want to beat this dude's ass, He kept putting me with this guy and this guy, so it was nice. I understood what he was
testing
doing.
You, the gauntlet.
Test me, exactly. I was like, all right, this is it. And I remember us walking off the mat, he's like staring at me like, who the hell is this kid? You know what I mean? Like, all tattooed up, Rise, he looks like an altar boy. And walk off the mat. He's like, so what do you want to do? I'm like, I want to fight in the UFC. He's like, all right. He's like, when can you come back out here? I'm like, I'll be out next week. And how many people have came out there and said that they'll be out there next week? And even like Danny and them guys, like, we didn't believe that you're gonna come back out. Sure as shit, I got a plane ticket, packed, packed my suitcase up and lived out of it for 2 weeks and fought my second pro fight. Ended up knocking that guy out and calling Faber up and like, hey, I won my fight. I'm coming back out. You got a spot for me? Because I was staying in a hotel. I'm like, I can't keep doing this, you know, just blowing all that money through that. So I was like fighting to have the money to fly back out, to fight again, to do it all again until I eventually, you know, made it to where I could, you know, my fifth pro fight. I was finally able to move out there, and I had like 2 months out there, and then I had my UFC debut.
So you've never lost a fight, not in the UFC, but anywhere.
Yeah, in my pro.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's and one of the interesting things about your story is if you didn't have that belief in yourself, then you probably wouldn't have made all of those decisions, right? You know, like the belief that you were destined to fight in the UFC and ultimately destined to be a champion has been this kind of guiding force. And I see that with champions in every sport. You know, it's that thing. How do you think you developed that? Like, where did you get that? Because that's an attribute and a skill that everybody can use. It's not just something for champions. It's something for all of us to have that belief, to make these decisions, to push yourself into sparring, to go out there and move when you've had very little money, to, you know, completely disrupt your life to take a chance. You have to have incredible self-belief. Like, where did that come from for you?
I think it originated from my mother, you know, just, you know, etching into us as a young, me and my brother was 10 months apart. So, you know, the struggle, you know, I think a product of our environment, of how we grew up, and, you know, we had to work for everything. She put us in sports and give us the best start that she could, you know, and that was like, you know, you got to an adult, you had to like make your own decisions. And I think my life experiences is what really, you know, made me, you know, keep that dream alive. But I remember seeing, you know, the UFC the first time, and I was like, I want to do that. I remember I was in Illinois wrestling at a national tournament for like our Ohio national team, and I think it was Stephen Bonner and Forrest Griffin that were fighting. I was like, I want to do this. I'm gonna be a world champion. I'm gonna be in the UFC, and like I'm a whole full team of wrestlers on there, and we ended up taking the mattresses off the bed and put them up against the wall so we didn't, you know, put holes in the wall. And I fought everyone on my team. You know what I mean? I'm not a big guy either. I fought the heavyweight. Like, yeah, we just fought all night.
Like throwing too?
Like just bare fists. Like, yeah.
Bare fist.
Bare fist. Just, yeah. I mean, when I was in, how old was I? 13 years old, 12, 13.
Man, if there was a video of that back in the day,
mean,
that'd be a great video.
We didn't have those. We had the flip phones. We were all cool with the Nokia flip phones.
Yeah, your Motorola Razr.
Yeah, the Razr.
Wasn't exactly filming in 4K.
We didn't have the money for that, so yeah. But yeah, I remember just doing that, and I remember telling this kid, I was like, I'm gonna be in the UFC. I'm gonna be the champion. And I remember he hit me up before my UFC fight. He's like, dude, do you remember when we were in Danville, Illinois, and the fight came on? We told the whole story again, and you said that you're gonna fight in the UFC. And he messaged me that like the week of my fight, and I was like, yeah, dude, I do remember that. Like, I held on to that, like, you know, through everything. That's all I always wanted to do. Like, I listen to everybody, you know, go to college, get a degree, don't put all your eggs in one basket. But I had my first fight at 14, my boxing, with USA Boxing, and fell in love with the pureness of it. Like, I went out there and remember just going out there and, you know, headgear and you know, the amateur rules.
Sure.
And just the pureness of it, like, wow, you didn't know what's going to happen. Like, this guy can fuck me up. My family's here. My grandma's here. She's, like, looking all sweet in the front row. I'm like, this ain't happening. You know? I loved it. And he had his corner and his people there. Just, I don't know. I love the pureness of it. And I went out there. It's kind of
sport stripped down to, like, the very base elements.
Yeah.
You know,
and fighting's simple. Like, I always try to, like, look at everything I did in the simplest form. Like, football, for instance. You know, you have the football. You run to the other end zones, try to not get tackled and score a touchdown. If you don't have the ball, you go like a bat out of hell trying to get the guy with the ball. You know, that's basically it is. I mean, there's a bunch of plays and formulations and, you know, all that. So I try to break it down like that. Fighting is simple. It's like, go on there, throw as fast and hard as you can, try not to get hit, and knock this guy out before he knocks you out. You know? I mean, that's how I break it down as. I mean, that can just be my style of it. But I don't know, I just always was, you know, since my first fight, I loved it. I knocked my first opponent out in my boxing fight. It was like 49 seconds. So went out there
when you were 14.
Yeah, just through
so
hella hands.
You had power. There's like this. There's a myth. There's this kind of like, not myth, but there's this thing about power, and it's almost like a God-given characteristic, right? Like, it's this kind of, you're born with this. Some people just have power.
Yeah.
Is that something that because obviously at 14, you know, you hadn't been training a bunch of skills, and most 14-year-olds can't knock anybody out.
Yeah. my uncle was a knockout artist. He was my trainer. So he really, showed us how to use your body and use your hips and like really set down on punches, and really twist them off. So I've always had that. Even like, remember like going and getting in little fights at like the park or whatever when we were like 9, 10, like fighting like teenagers and knocking them out. Like hitting them and like they're wobbling on, then you hit them again, they're knocking out. I was like, whoa, like see my brother do that.
How many people have you knocked out in your life? Training, sparring, fighting?
A lot. I've had so many street fights. Like, I mean, I outgrew that, aspect, but for sure. But there was a time that I was coming home with suspension papers all the time.
And how did those street fights go? I mean, why you seem like a pretty fucking laid back
dude.
Because
I think what it was, I was the smallest out of like everyone I hung out with. I was a smaller dude. Like my brother was bigger. No one wanted to fight my brother. No one wanted to fight Zach. If we were at the park or whatever, something went down. We were ramping on our bikes. Dirt jumps or at the pool. Like some shit went down. Like I'm not the guy that's gonna sit there and try to talk. Like I'd rather like do action. Because that's what I had to do with Zach. If I was gonna sit there and talk to my brother's name's Zach. He's bigger than me. He's stronger. He's faster. He's the meanest guy I've ever had to fight with. So I grew up fighting him. Like it wasn't about just talking. You're in a bubble talking, getting loud. I was the first one always to crack Zach. Just hit him with like a 3, because I didn't want him hitting me first. Because I know I'd be seeing stars or something. Right. So I think I never took shit from Zach. So I wasn't gonna take shit from anyone else. And plus, if I got punked out by these guys or whoever it was that whoever was doing it, my brother found out, then he's going to try to fight me. He's going to whoop my ass for not fighting the guy, Yeah.
Rogan talks about that. I think, Chris Weidman had a similar situation with his brothers, I believe. Hearing Joe talk about it, like the older brother factor for fighters is a major factor. Like some of the best in the world
have older brothers.
Had older brothers who were beating their ass constantly. Dude. It was like the iron that sharpened the iron, the pressure that made the diamond.
Yeah, for sure. That's one thing. I literally fought sometimes to where I was like, man, I don't think if I get in this position, Zach's gonna kill me. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna die. Like,
wow.
Like I remember one time we had so many. Man, there's been so many fights. This one time, he was downstairs and he was like 16. I was 15 at the time. I don't think I had a license. And he like would mow grass in the morning, like the golf courses, like we'd eat and stuff. And we had these girls coming over, and we were adopted when we were 10 by my mom's ex-husband at the time now. So like a nice neighborhood, nice house, and he was at work, so we're like, oh, really cool, invite these girls over. And I had my buddy with me, and we had like a 30-pack of Bush that we were, doing it big. And the girls were coming over, and Zach was like, no, be quiet, be quiet, I gotta get up in the morning. And I had my hair gelled up, I had a nice shirt on. The girls were coming over, and I was like, Zach came up, and I was like, just pissed because we wasn't being quiet. And I was like, man, anytime I would love to fight you, but right now I don't want to fight you.
Yeah.
And like he was just like having no answer. He was like, no, we're fighting because I told you. You know what I mean? He was just pushed past the limit. I remember he come at me like with his hands up, and there's this big ass knife on my dad's stepdad or adopted father's counter. And I just like first instinct just grabbed this knife and was like went like this at him. He had his hand and cut his finger right to the bone, was nearly cut it off. You know what I mean? Like, and then he just like looked at me, punched the stove, shattered this whole glass stove. Yeah, we've had a lot of fights where it was like serious like that. Yeah, I mean, the last fight we got into, I was 17 and he was 18, and it was over a Subway sandwich. I had a fight the next day. I had a boxing match the next day. And it was at my grandma's because we actually had to move away from each other. My mom was moving around with my, in rental property, so we were fucking up the houses that we were fighting everywhere. So she's like, "You guys got to stop, we got to stop." And he moved out probably 15, 16, living with my grandma. So I always go there. Grandma has the best snacks, the best junk food. It's your grandma. You always want to go there. Zach was always there eating up all the food. So I had a sub, and I knew how my weigh-ins. I had to weigh in the next day. I'll eat half of it, go work out, eat the rest, and I'll be good for the night. Yep. I said, Grandma, do not let Zach eat this sub. I said, I'm going to go work out and come back. And my grandma was a little sweet woman. She's like, okay, yeah, come. So I work out, come back, open up the fridge, like I'm starving. Like I know this is what I eat for the rest of the day. Weigh in tomorrow at like 12. I'm like, Grandma. I said, where's the stuff at? She goes, oh, so she goes, I don't know. And Zach's on this lazy boy, right? Just kick back, like snacking and stuff. Like, oh, that was good. And I was like, it was on. Like we started fighting right there. Like he came. I said something that set him off. I can't remember, but he came like bulldoze, and we had a gate for the dog, and just like ripped it off the hinges. Like Zach is a big dude. Like he wrestled he won state at 171 pounds. So he's over 200. Over 200 pounds in a high school kid. I'm wrestling 125 pounds. You know what I mean? Like way bigger than me. And I'm like, all right. So we started fighting. My grandma gets in the middle, so I stop. Like I'm like, I don't want to knock grandma out, or something happened. We hit grandma, or something happens. Because she's mean as hell. Yeah, sensible. Zach, no, he goes over top of me, pedigrees me on my head, dude, almost bite my tongue
What is
off.
that for people who don't
Dude,
know?
like he grabbed my, it's a wrestling move. Grabbed me by my like arms over my grandma and picked me up over my grandma, and she like slid out of the way somehow and just slammed me on top of my head. I feel like my head crunched. I thought I was like, for a minute, I was like, this is it. Like he just crushed my skull. And I got my tongue was like, I bit my tongue, and it was horrible. I was like, got him. I was like, all right. So I went outside and started kicking his door trucks in, and his door, and then he finally jumped in it. And we're from a small town, like 5,000 people, country as hell, and so he jumped in his truck. I jumped in my truck. We always call it the pump house. It's called everyone. We take out of towners if they came in, or we're gonna go to the pump house and fight. Like if you had a scuffle, we go out city limits and go to this pump house. This big, huge pump house. You know, septic tanks and stuff.
You just out of
on
town
a dirt road. Yeah, and you just pull off. And there's a big pull off where all the cars can come, and then you just got in the street or in this little dirt road and fight for whoever won. And we used to go out there all the time. People would be hitting back roads, burning joints or hitting booze cruises up. It's country shit, going out there. And so I knew where he's going. I was like, all right, we're going to the pump house. And we literally probably fought for like 45 minutes. And this is the only time in my life that I've hurt Zach with a punch. I hit him with a solid right hand. Just boom. Hit him. And he like did this little stanky leg swagger. And he like looked at me. He's like, huh. And he's this big corn fed dude. He's like, huh. He's like, good hit, you little fucker. Like that. And I was like, oh, I tried to like, jump on him. And this is the reason I have this cauliflower ear from Zach, that fight. And granted, I had to fight the next day in Warren, Ohio. And I had a boxing match. Went up there. Knuckles would beat the shit. I was blood everywhere. The commission didn't want me to fight because I was just beat up.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, I trained hard for this fight. I wanted to fight, and went out there and had to fight.
It's like I'll fight, but I need a sandwich first.
Yeah, I need to give me a Subway.
I'm one sandwich short. Other than that, I'm good.
Yeah. So I mean, I went in this fight just beat up, and this was probably one of my toughest boxing matches. And this dude didn't weigh in. He came in like 6'3". You know what I mean? Like, suppose we were fighting 147 pounds. This dude did not. I don't know when the last time this guy weighed 147 pounds. He didn't weigh in. It was one of those things. But boxing is so corrupt, and just kind of went in there, fought, and won one fight a night. Ended up knocking him out in the third round. But it was like the toughest fight, man. This dude hit me so hard that I went deaf in the fight. The first round he hit me like towards the end of the bell. Boom, like this hook, this stood up hook, bam. And I remember like, oh shit, like didn't rock me or nothing, but I couldn't hear. So I go to the corner, and my uncle's like trying to give me instruction on like what to do, and I'm just like, nothing. It's like silent. I'm like sitting in my mind, I'm like, holy shit, this guy just made me go deaf with that hook. I was like, well, I know if I go back when the bell answers, I want to keep my hands up and not get hit by the hook again. And my uncle just I'm like, look, Bob, I said I can't hear what you're saying. He hit me so hard I can't hear. And he's like, good. He's like, and he just went like this. He's like, you got him. Like, go out. What you're supposed to say. Went out there and dropped him in the second round. Came back out finally. So I came back out. I still couldn't hear it. And I'm moving around. I'm like, man, just don't get hit. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. Like, is my hearing gonna come? I could see everything, the crowd, but I couldn't hear. It was the weirdest thing. And finally, like, boom, came back on. It was like deafening, like loud noise, like the loudest. Like the crowd was going crazy. I'm back in the fight. I can hear again. And then dropped him in the second and taking him out in the third. So literally had a toughest fight, like a 45-minute scrap with my brother. And I was pumped. I was going in confident, I was like going in confident. I was beat the shit out, but I hurt Zach that time. That's the only time in my life that I hurt Zach, that I buckled. He just buckled his knee a little bit. I was so pumped. I was like, oh, I'm gonna mess this dude up tomorrow. But I was probably concussed from the day before. He slammed me on my head. So it was. We've had some just crazy fights that made me, I think, it's just tough, not like so. In there, like I know I'm not gonna ever get beat up that bad, or if I do, I've got my ass beat before. I'm not afraid to go out there and do it.
It really highlights how that environment you're talking about growing up in. I mean, that's an immense obstacle, right? Your brother was like the ultimate obstacle, but in true stoic fashion, that obstacle became your advantage. You use that resistance to your advantage. That made you who you are right now. That dramatically contributed. So it's a weird thing. People go through these hard times. Everybody has different stories. Yours was very tangible with, this big ass country older brother who was fighting you all the time. But everybody has their shit. And that shit can either be part of your story that you tell as, I was a victim and this thing happened and this tragedy was there and blah, blah, blah. If only I was more privileged, then I could have all of this success and all of that. But really, it's the obstacles and the resistance that allows us to be strong enough. When everything's just handed to you, where's your motivation?
Man.
Where's the grindstone that you sharpen your sword against?
Yeah, exactly. You never had it. Just like I look at it like this: life and fighting go hand in hand for me, because it's life's up and down, and fighting can be up and down. Fortunately, I'm undefeated and I haven't tasted defeat in my professional career, but I've had life, where it's, I've lost a lot in my life, as I look at this, the worst thing that happens in my life is that I lose a fight in the UFC. Like, now I'm living a pretty good life, that's what I look at it like that. But I've been, molded from my, the adversity and the obstacles and like the way I was brought up to be like, okay, like this is just a fight, this is a fight. You've overcome so many more obstacles even just to get here. Now you're here. It's like, now it's the fun part. Now it's time to enjoy it. Like, you worked so hard to even get here and had all those obstacles to overcome and adversity. Like, looking, I had some like darkest times, but at the same time, I still kept the light at the end of the tunnel, and that was me getting the gold belt strapped around by Dana. Being the world champion. Yeah. No matter what, I was street fights, I got stabbed. I was, I had to go to grand jury over this, the fight that happened at a bar. And like really like going down this wrong path. And I believe that everything in life, you can it's a learning experience, either good or bad, positive or negative.
Right now, all of us are in exactly the most advantageous position we could possibly be. And that's something that's hard for people to recognize. You want to think, oh, it's too late, it's this or that. Like, all of the life experience we've all had has made us who we are. And we're absolutely better for it, no matter what starting position we have. We're wiser, we're smarter, we're more experienced than we ever were. Like, now is your best opportunity. Always, and that's definitely a perspective that I try to remind people, because you can look at, I should have done this, I should have done that. Well, you learn from all of this. Now you're the person that's learned from all those mistakes. Now you're the person that knows the successes and failure. You're seasoned, and what is the price of experience? It's priceless.
Exactly. And I'm glad that I've had all those life experiences at a younger age. You know what I mean? Maybe it postponed me to get to where I was at. Maybe I got it sooner, but I believe everything happens for a reason. Yeah. And those things that taught me in my life.
Well, shit, you're still super young now. What are you now?
25.
Yeah.
25. So it's great, we talked about like, not taking things for granted and like being here. Like, I'm just thankful, thankful that I got here, and so I had the path that I had, it wasn't given. It was always worked for. It was always, my mother put us in all these things and gave us that hard work ethic and hard nose, and never give up. If you're going to go out for football this year, and not even matter if you're their starter and Joe Schmo over here is the starter or isn't the starter, and his mom's bitching to get him the starter, you know what I mean? You're going to work hard and get that spot, So she always was that backbone of our family, you know what I mean?
That's great.
Our father has been in prison, in prison her whole life, in prison now. She had, a couple marriages. We were adopted when we were 10. She was always there for us, keeping us together, keeping us, no matter what you do in this life, do it with passion and do it 100% and never give up. So I think that's what really gave my toughness mentality, was from her. And then my physical mentality was from my corn-fed brother, Zach, really fighting for survival, fighting over food, growing up with, all their siblings and,
sure.
And,
now
in essence.
You said something to me, when you got this title fight, you said something that, people were clamoring for an interview, but, and everybody's asking you, hey, are you excited? You excited? And you said something that, to me, you were like, yeah, of course I'm excited, but I've seen this. Right. I've known that this was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me, I talked to a professional poker player, and his mentor, who is another like great master poker player, said to him, said, hey, Matt, you want to know when you'll win the World Series? You'll win the World Series when it doesn't matter to you if you win the World Series. Right. Like when you're so good that, oh yeah, I just won the World Series. You know what I mean? Like, you believe it so much and you put in so much work that it's not a surprise anymore. When you're not surprised you'll win the World Series. Not that it won't matter, but when you're no longer surprised. Right, the element of surprise is out the window. So like, when are you going to get a title shot? You'll get a title shot when you're not surprised that you got a title shot. You know what I mean? Like, when are you going to be world champion? You'll be world champion when you're not surprised when you're world champion, because you believe it and you've seen it so many times. Over and over, through and through, waking up, dreams, just even like daydreaming, man. Like, like really grinding for that world, really chasing gold for so many years now. And, it's upon me, like we said, like getting hit up, like you have so many emotions, like, cause this is what I got in the sport for. Well, it was kind of just like bred into this. Like there's no other thing I wanted to do, nothing else
caught my attention or gave me passion through like wrestling did, boxing did, and I was like, oh, we can put this together. Oh, we can get paid to do this, and so it was great. Now like the first thing, how are you excited? I'm like, yeah, I'm excited, but don't get it twisted. Like I'm excited and I have a lot of emotions because it's finally here. It's finally like what I've been working for. But I'm not surprised that I'm here. I said my hard work and dedication. I always believed in myself I always believed that I was going to be the world champion. I didn't believe I was just going to be another UFC fighter on the roster. I always believed that I was going to be the best.
And if you did, you would have been.
Exactly.
You'll go as far as your belief, as far as how bold you are with your belief. The audacity of your belief will determine how far you go. And as long as you're willing to back it up and it's not some fantasy. Some people have fantasies. I know a lot of people, particularly people who smoke way too much weed, they'll be like, I'm going to be a rock star someday. And be like, yeah, what are you doing about it? Right. Like, I don't know. I play sometimes in my room. It's like, no. Yeah, you talk to a rock star. That's not how they did it. It's not a fantasy. For them, they're fucking playing shows. They're playing their instrument till their fingers are bleeding. Right. They're booking out small, smoky rooms and just hustling.
Right.
You have to combine the two because one is a false belief.
Yeah.
It's this kind of fantasy idea. Yeah, I'm gonna be the after I watch these fucking cartoons and eat these Funyuns.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's not real belief. Real belief is when you're out there actively engaged in the process, seeing it in your mind, envisioning it, going towards it, and putting in the work. That's when the belief is real.
Yeah.
That's when you're gonna get it.
Motivated.
And I think when two fighters square off, I think there's a certain element of like belief detection that goes on, and I wonder if you've kind of noticed this. Like when you're looking at another fighter across there, it's almost like this matchup of like squaring up your belief. Like how much do you believe?
How much you believe just by looking at someone in the eyes. Yeah. Eyes don't lie. And Mike Tyson is, they said it before. He looks and they look away. You can so much body demeanor. You can read off someone.
People know that now, so they don't look away. But you got to look deeper, right?
Deeper. I look deeper, man. I can feel. Man, I can tell you what, I can feel the fear off the fighters when I look at them, when I'm around them. Almeida, I felt it off him. He goes in there. Dominick Cruz, before I fought Takeo Mizugaki, I saw him backstage give me a look and look away. And I was like, nope. I got to go up and he's talking shit in the media. I got to go let him know. I'm going to knock Takeo out faster than him, and I'm going to knock him out next. And I walked up to him, and, we're getting filmed to go into our thing. I was like, man, this guy's talking hella shit. I just got to let him know, like, hey, you're next. I'm going to knock Takeo out. You're next. And I went up to him. He was like, thought it was cool. He was like, what's up, buddy? Like, we were cool. Like, like if
we are cool, motherfucker.
We are cool. I was like, look, I was up in his face. I was like, no, look, don't, tell me what's up, motherfucker. Or what's up, buddy? I was like, I talk all that shit. And then he was like, looking around, like I could feel like the fear radiating off him. I was like, holy shit, this guy's scared.
He didn't have Zach beating his ass this whole childhood.
He didn't have Zach beating his ass. What I mean?
That's not his
He's
path.
not a fighter. He's good at fighting.
He's a master technician.
He's good at the sport of fighting. I'm a fighter. The pureness, the rawness, the savagery of it.
Do you think people
destroying someone?
Do you think people have gotten that yet? Because I knew your fight was coming up, and I think that's a really interesting story that's really developing. It's like the tactician versus the fighter. Is the UFC or anybody kind of picking up on that angle?
I think I saw some stuff. I kind of read into little things, but like what people say, like, oh, he's elusive, he's this, he's that. But he's good at the sport of fighting. I'm a fighter. I'm a born bred. It's in my blood. I'm a fighter. I'm going in there like being a savage. He's not. He's good at what he does. He's good at the sport of fighting. That's not getting hit and hitting people and winning. All he cares about is a W at the end of the match. No matter what he does or how he wins, in the record book, it's a W. I want to be remembered for like, holy fuck, Cody just knocked the hell out of that dude, or that was a sick, vicious knockout. He's content with just winning split decisions. And for me, I can't live with that. A split decision, that's one judge seeing it the other way. I want to go out there and leave absolutely no doubt that I am the best in the world. He's cool with just, I want a split decision. How cool is that to say, I want a split decision? Or rather saying, I went out and knocked his ass out in the first round. Like that's what I want to know. That's what I like to do.
Right.
I don't believe, for me, fighting shouldn't be time. There's no shouldn't be time. It should be till someone gives up. Like I know what they're making it into the sport.
Like at the pump house. Pump house,
man. Like, man, that's but how I fought my whole entire life. I had to. There's no like, oh, timeout. Let me do this, or let me go. There's no rules. It was just survival. It was going there and fighting until you knock someone out. So I believe, like, for me to end this fight, the only way that if I got tired or whatever, I'm gonna knock him out. That's how I control that. I can knock you out and then get end the fight. but he's good at what he does. He's good.
One of the things he's good at is he gets people frustrated, he gets people emotional, and then their emotions make them a worse fighter. But you've had the advantage of being able to see that happen. You've been able to watch him do that.
Yeah.
And so now you get to be in that position of having learned and having seen, those mistakes of fighters that have come before. So you feel ready for that?
So ready. I mean, I'm through and through. I grew up fighting on the street and like the trash talking the band or what, this. I've been in the fire, been in the knife fights and shit. Like, been stabbed where it's like life and death. I look at every fight like that. You know what I mean? I look at every fight like, dude, this guy could fuck me up. I want to whoop his ass before he does it to me. And then he wants to pry into personal shit. It's like, cool, man, I know where I come from. I know what I am. I know who I am. I'm cool with what I came from. I'm happy the start that I had. You know what I mean? He just has he's full of so many insecurities, and it's crazy because he comes kind of from the same, background that he kind of is outspoken about, being from, he said daddy issues, which stems from me being, single parent, my father in prison, but he comes from a single parent as well. Thing is, he forgot where he came from, and he knew how hard it was for him to get there, but he lost that sight. And now he's like, here's this kid, came up real quick, same kind of, upbringing that I had, not as, he's not a fighter, so I wouldn't say that, but he's like, oh shit, now he's got to get mentally ready for him and physically. But I've been getting physically and mentally ready for him since I was a teenager. Since first seeing him fight, I had in my mind like, Dominick Cruz, I'm gonna fight him. I'm gonna knock him out. When I was a teenager, when he was fighting in the WEC, all this time, even when he was off his little hiatus of being injured, I was like, man, he's one of the best. That's who I want to beat. I've had that in my mind. So mentally, I've been getting ready for him. Like I said, like the excitement, the shock factor is not there for me. Like, I pictured myself fighting this guy, knocking this guy out viciously, and having Dana White trap the belt around in the UFC when the lightweights weren't even in the UFC. So it's like, manifesting that, and before I even knew what manifestation was, any of that stuff, I was doing that. I remember my freshman year in high school, I used to write out just throughout class, write out Cody Garbrandt, 2007 in my weight class, 112-pound freshman state champion, Yerkesville, Ohio. Because I used to go to the state tournament as a kid. That was our like little Christmas gift. Used to go and watch the state tournament. We were all in awe with the lights, and the Ohio State tournament is huge for anybody that doesn't know. It's like 17,000, 18,000 people, and going there, we used to go there for Christmas. Our Christmas gift was to go down there and watch the wrestlers win state titles, and I always believed I was going to be a state champion in 3rd, 4th grade. And I remember my freshman year, I was in high school. I was like ranked like 9th in the state, like dark horse. Like, hey, he could possibly win, but we're ranking him at 9. I remember like they had a breakdown, like a Brakeman report before the season, and went in. I just would always write it down. I remember the announcer as a kid, his name or how his voice was. I would just hear that in training when I was like physically tired or whatever. I was like, he was saying my name, Yerkesville, Ohio, freshman Cody Garbrandt, state champion, something like that, 2007. Like, doing that, I would write that down, and I wrote it down all year. One state. I wasn't surprised when I won it. Like, I was just like, oh, sweet, this is up.
I think the key to, when you listen to all the masters who talk about doing that process, the key is to not only see it like you're watching someone else's movie in your head, but bring it into your body, like feel what that feels like. So when you're envisioning, winning that belt, it's not just like you're envisioning it, but you're not emotional, but like let yourself feel what it feels like when that fresh leather gets put around your waist. And Joe Rogan's coming in on the way in there, and the crowd's all electric and fired up.
I can feel it, man. I got goosebumps thinking about it now. I felt that for so many years. You know what I mean? After each training session, I throw my hands up, close my eyes, and I'm walking around the octagon, now it's a T-Mobile, but the MGM or just wherever I'm at, I hear the crowd going nuts, and I'm like, I see my mom there, I see my family, I see my, now I see my girlfriend there, I see all these things, and like, so that surprise element's out of it for me. It's still fun. It's still, your adrenaline goes from zero to that,
you're still living it.
It's still living it, but it's just real. It's like you're not dreaming it. It's real.
So anybody out there listening who, whatever your goal is, like, practice that. It's probably the most valuable thing you can do. Like, imagine yourself, all right, you want to be a successful entrepreneur. You know, like imagine what it feels like to be running your own business, sitting in the exact desk that you'd want to be sitting in with the employees you want working for you and the bank account, feeling like feel that. So it's so real that it's more real than any other thing that you can imagine in your future. Like bring it all the way into your body. Don't let it be some abstract thought like, yeah, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I don't know what that looks like or feels like or whatever. That's not real. That's nonsense. Like, you know, if whatever you want to go for, like bring it home, make that shit real. And so then you'll believe all the way. And the crazy thing about belief, it's not magic. It's just that it's guiding you to take the right steps to do it. And it's also affecting people around you because we are great belief detectors, you know, like whether it's you're looking for someone who's going to be in a romantic relationship, you know, you're detecting each other's belief in yourself and belief in you know, in what you're bringing to the table. In business, it's belief detection. In fighting, it's belief. We're always assessing each other's self-belief. And when you have that, you'll draw people to you because people will be like, oh shit, yeah, he probably is going to be the world. Like he really believes it.
Yeah, self-belief's the greatest power that we have as humans. I believe in that we don't tap into that, you know. Look at Conor McGregor, you know.
100%.
100%. Like you can say what you want about that dude, but he's going out there and doing the damn thing because he believes, you know.
And not only believes that he's going to do it, but he believes specifically, so much specifically when and how he's going to do it, that more often than not, he's absolutely correct about what he's going to do. Like in this last fight there in New York, he said he was going to knock him out in the first round, but really what he said was, and he kind of hedged that a little bit. He's like, you know, I'll probably knock him down, beat him up, and then I think he said like with a few minutes left in the second, I'll take him out. Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. And you can look at those moments where he predicts exactly what happens and why. It's just because he's ready. That split second thing of doubt versus belief. He collapses that because he's got 100% belief. So that's why his timing, as well as his physical skills, the hard work, everything. But the belief gives you that split second advantage so that your timing is just right and everything lines up.
You have to respect. That's the respect of that he's his self belief, and he goes out there and does it. Even if he loses, okay, he's humble in defeat. You know, he's like, hey, I've been here before. I'm going to come back. And look, he's came back. Came back, fought Diaz in a great fight. You know, fight of the year. Went out there and, you know, beat Nate, you know, and then went out there and knocked Eddie out for the fight. I mean, just guy's self-belief is huge. And
it seems like he's tending to trend upwards in weight. But did you ever have a time where you thought that you guys might get to tangle?
Yeah, I mean, I'm staying at 45, but you know, whatever.
Oh shit, there was something on Ultimate Fighter. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was Team USA, Team Europe. He represented Europe. Faber represented, you know, USA. We was out there. Faber brought me out as the boxing coach, and it was, you know, heated up. You know, our team was going against our team. I think we were up 2-0, so he was getting all testy. You know, and it was about the whole Dillashaw era when he was leaving and this and that. So he was probably not, but it wasn't me sticking up for Dillashaw about that. You know,
I mean, it kind of was.
It kind of was. It was more mainly I was chilled the whole time. Him and Andre and Faber going back and forth. And I even said before, like, this guy's, the first week, I said, this guy talks so much shit. Someone's got to, like, put him in his place. He's going to keep just trying to dog everybody. And I'm not a guy, I've never been a guy that's going to shit talk. Hey, man, like, we'll get
You're about action.
About action. Always been about action. And what set me off was, and TJ was there too. It was crazy. TJ was there, but he was in the back in the room. Yeah. And it was like, man, why don't you, like, Andre said, like, he started talking shit when TJ wasn't there, and TJ was in the back of the room. And he's like, man, you're singing that song, like, TJ was just right here. Why won't you say it to him? He was like, where's that little twerp? I'll say it to his face. You know, and he's like, oh, well, you're acting all tubby. It was just right here. You're not. And he was like, well, you know, just Al Connor talks. And he goes, Andre and him are drawing back and forth. So I'm just chilling, just being all calm, listening. He goes, what are you twerps going to do about it? And I was like, man, okay. And that was the first time I was like, okay, wait, someone's asked me, do you want to fight? I'm going to fight. You know, I'm a fighter. He asked it again. I looked at him. I was like, look, motherfuckers, you want to fight? I'll do something about it. And he's like, what? He looked at me, he's like, I do something. I got up, and the only reason I didn't hit him because he had sunglasses on. Yeah. And I was like, well, so my better judgment, you know, I shoved him, like, thinking like, hey, someone puts their hands on me, they're getting fucked up. You know, I don't care if it's a push or what. I'm gonna at least try to fight. And so I pushed him and got, you know, and then this little David Tamora kid like tried to come like grab my face. I remember grabbing my face. And I was like, oh, all right, well, I focused on Connor. It's not about this little guy, you know. I don't care about this guy. I'm caring about Connor talking the shit. And so we got in this big, our benches clear. And finally, I was like, came back too. And I remember David, like, man, this guy grabbed my face. I went up and like trying to grab David up, and then But it was like after that, I was like, let's go outside. And then like, I'm not doing this for the cameras or nothing. Like you're asking like, you want to fight? Like I'm down to scrap. And like, and then it was cool. And we ended up Dana having a party the next week, and at the Ultimate Fighter, brought a bunch of girls, and took care of us with the fighters, had fun. I was like, look, went up to him like, hey, we squashed it. I was like, look, man, like I'm cool with it.
Ultimately, he's got to respect that.
Yeah, I was like, look, man, I'm defending my dudes. You're defending your dudes. I got respect for you. And this is just right after he beat Chad. Knocked Chad out. Yeah. And, he was talking all that shit, and he was walking around with the belt. And, whatever. Good. Hats off to you, man. Chad took it on 8-day notice, 9-day notice. Coming out of the woods. And still gave you a fight. But hats off to him. It was cool. Like we shook hands and talked about it. I was like, he was like, talking shit. Like I'm not a shit talker. Like I'm, if someone asked me to fight, I'm gonna fight. So we respected each other on that end of it. And I think he's great what he's doing. Like I can't, like I said, just talking about that. I've always, when he would, do interviews or fight, you'd be drawn to him because he was going out there and believing in himself and knocking people out. Like you can't hate on someone that's doing that. Yeah. And people are going to, no matter what, they're going to love you or hate you for what you say.
Sure.
But it's self-belief. That dude believes in himself. He's going out there. And
I thought that, speaking of the Chad fight, I thought that was the most impressive thing about that fight because I was, obviously really close. I was at that fight. And I remember, Chad had him down in the second round and was bouncing elbows off his head and just bouncing his elbow into his head into the canvas, right? Like over and over again. And Conor looked like he had zero chance to stop Chad's takedowns, right? But Conor, the whole time, like there wasn't that one single flash of self-doubt. Yep. He was just talking like,
the whole time.
Like, okay, you got this. I don't know what the fuck he was saying. Chad probably knows, but the whole time just chatting. And I think at some point Chad was like, shit.
This guy's still here.
He's still like, this is pretty much what I can do.
Chad was tagging him up. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that, I haven't talked to Chad, but I can't help but think that had some impact,
I think so.
Like when you encounter a belief that's that strong and you're clearly dominant, like that's the time when the shit talking should stop for most people. Exactly. Like that's when you're like asserting your will. Like if there's ever going to be a time where Conor's going to have his mouth shut the fuck up, it's when you're on top of him, bouncing elbows off his head, and he's still going. And I think it's such a powerful thing.
Yeah, and that too, Chad come in like, dude, like I'm hitting this guy, cracking him. Chad hits hard. He's explosive, knocks people out. And this Conor got a big old melon head. You know what I mean? Like what? Like what? You know what I mean? Like, what? Come on, doing the thing. And elbows, taking him down. He's got him cut. I think maybe I don't know what happened in Chad's mind or what. Maybe he lost focus. Like, I'm getting it, and then let Conor back into the fight or what. I mean, the cardio conditioning maybe coming out.
Sure,
like, hats off. It was a great fight. You know what I mean? All come to the fight, but then you still have this guy who's sitting there talking shit, getting his ass beat. Like, this guy's not going to give up. I'm going to have to knock him out. So in your mind, you have to knock him out.
You might have to kill him.
You have to finish him. Exactly.
Like it's that.
But in your mind, are you ready to do that? Because you have a camp for yourself to train your body mentally.
And so that starts to fuck with your belief,
exactly.
Right? Because then in your mind, you're thinking, fuck, I didn't have a camp. I wasn't ready to go this deep. And maybe even if he was, but even that doubt of like, not knowing that it came on short notice, all those things can play. And obviously this is hypothetical. And, if we had Chad here on the podcast, I'd love to get into it. But all of those factors of just these things start to creep in, and they're like little viruses in your operating system code. Yeah. And you get these little viruses in your operating system code, and then the thing starts to break down.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point, I've had some fighters where they put on that poker face for a little bit. You hit them, like you see something in their eye, and like, all right, oh, he's gone. Once I hit him and I see him, I'm like, okay, he just can't settle in, calm down, knock him out. Like I noticed that with Almeida. I noticed that with the first interview that he said he's gonna knock me out in the second round. That was right there, and I was like, I'm gonna knock this guy out in the first round. He said he's gonna knock me out in the second round. It's like, why don't you believe you're 21-0 and you're knocking out all these guys? Why don't you have belief in you that you're going to go in there and knock me out in the first round? That's right there. I knew I won the fight from his first interview. So I listen to every interview of my fight, of my opponent, my adversaries do, say whatever they're saying, because I want to know what kind of fight I'm going to have to get ready for to go into with what they say. With Almeida saying he's going to knock me out in the second round, I'm like, dude, he does not believe in himself. That goes back to that self-belief.
Yep.
Like, I believe in myself. I'm going to knock you out in the first round. You already told me you're going to knock me out in the second round. You don't believe in yourself. Right there, I'm like, the first interview, this is 9 weeks out. I'm like, I want this fight. Now, everything else has to go into it. The training camp, staying healthy, going out there and performing. But I knew I had bigger self-belief in myself than he did. He's 21-0, wrecking everybody. I'm 7-0, really haven't fought he's fought some guys, so this is my fight that I knew that would, be huge for my career, take me to the next level. But after that fight, it was like, it was such a big change, like night and day almost. Like, oh man, this kid's really got it, knocking him out. But I wasn't surprised. I'm like, man, I had all the like the more media with this, meeting with Dan and all those guys. And the first thing he said, he's like, well, how's it feel? I was like, so you get noticed a lot more? And I was like, yeah, I was in Vegas, so yeah, more people. But I'm not about that. I was like, man, I'm not surprised. Like, I believed myself the whole time I was gonna knock him out.
It's the same. People ask me the same thing with On It. Like, man, are you surprised at how successful it's been, or like how does it feel? And it's the same with me. I've always known that this is exactly what I was supposed to do. This is where I was supposed to be. So it's awesome.
And you're humble about it.
I'm living the dream 100%. I feel incredibly blessed, but it's not like this surprise. I just won the lotto. I'm going to go do this. I've seen this the whole way through.
Exactly.
And you have to have that.
Yeah. I remember my girlfriend was like, dude, like, Cody, this fight's changing your life. I was like, oh, that's crazy. Like, I'd go around. I'd be, when fans come up to you and it's like, it's cool. It's awesome. Like, wow, man, that guy just wanted, you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
It's new to you. It's cool. It's like, it's awesome, to have that support. And I'm like, she's like, babe, that fight really was a huge fight for you. And I was like, really? I was like, for me, I believed that I was going to do that. It was just another fight for me. Just like Dominick Cruz is just another fight for me to KO. I was like, the first punch that I land on to KO, I'll knock him out. I said that, boom, knocked him out. I was like, I just believe like I said, it goes back to self-belief. I believe in myself. Like, that's already out of the window when I go in for this title fight with Cruz, that where he has the advantage on his other opponents and adversaries, that he gets in their head, he gets them frustrated, takes them off their game plan. I'm focused. I've been focused, and I believe in myself too. So that's why I think that he feels so threatened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you look at any of it, and he bring up about me, he acts like he didn't know me. But he didn't want to have to put in his mind like, man, I got to get in there with that savage. That's what he didn't want to have to, manifest himself in there with me. Now he has to, because he doesn't believe in himself. He's full of insecurities, and I can see that. Yeah.
Do you ever see, you said you were heavier when you landed at Team Alpha Male. I mean, Conor's shown that, he can go between the weight classes and do some pretty outstanding shit, capturing 2 belts. Could you ever see yourself moving up and fighting at 45? I mean, after you dominated the 35 for a little while?
Yeah, like I said, I have a blueprint, a hit list. It was Takea by default. He's my next fight. Dominick, TJ Lineker, and that's how it's falling. Right there, I'm blueprint for my next 3 fights. That's how I feel. So go wipe those guys out. I can either go up to 25, walk around 150 pounds if I wanted to, or I go up to 45, wherever. You know what I mean? And if Conor's still around and he wants to get it, I'll go up to 70 and fight him, wherever he's at, the money fights. But I want to make sure my thing is about building a legacy.
Sure.
I want to build my legacy.
Sure.
And then have the super fights. And, it's great having the money and everything, but I've really wanted to build my legacy, because it's once all that money and stuff goes away, really, what do you have? You have your legacy that you built. That's what I've always been in. I've never been in, one of those amateur fighters that went out there and fought for, a girl and a free sponsor T-shirt. I always fought and did this because I wanted to build a legacy.
I would definitely still fight for a girl. But
oh, great, yeah, back in the day, I'll take 2 of those. You know what I mean? Like, I get knocked out, I'll get 2. All right, cool. So yeah, I just always wanted to build a legacy. Like, I thought it was like Chuck Liddell. Like, I always looked at him like, man, that guy's legacy.
Another fighter's fighter.
Yeah.
It's interesting too. One of my best friends for a long time was Bodie Miller, and he talked about skiing kind of the similar way that you talk about fighting. For him, he could play conservative and win most of the races, but he would be disgusted with himself if he didn't go out and ski the line like he knew that he could barely potentially possibly do. So, he had to cut it as intense and as close as he possibly could. Or it just wasn't even worth it for him. Like, why the fuck am I even skiing? Am I going to take the conservative line down the mountain and maybe win by a split second? Or am I going to try and ski this mountain like no motherfucker has ever skied it before? And maybe I'll crash or maybe I'll win, but that's the only way that it's fun for me. I don't care what the scorecard says. If I win, but I didn't ski like a skier, I skied like a tactician, like, forget it. I'm out. And he's been criticized for that, but it's ultimately made him who he is and one of the fan favorites. And I think people respect that about a fighter too. A fighter who fights, from some kind of ancient calling, this kind of warrior code.
Dude, yeah, I believe it. Because I have, Native American blood in me. I believe that.
What tribe?
I have Cherokee and Blackfoot. So yeah, it's it's happening. I've always believed that, I always believed that I was destined to fight. Like, I'd have nothing else that's ever gave me goosebumps or gave me the adrenaline rush, or just even the training, the process of becoming the champion. Like, from my early on days of wrestling, before I even knew what fighting was, like, that all goes into it. Then I'm like, know what fighting was. I had the dream of it when I was 13. Doing that, like, it's all been a process, all been a chapter, of my life story of getting here. So that's something that I look forward to every day I wake up. Like I said, I'm happy, I'm blessed, I'm thankful that I get to go out there and do what I love to do, is train. How tiring, taxing, and grueling it is. I would rather do that than do something else. I almost sold myself out. I almost went and worked as a coal miner for for however knows. I went and got my license to be a coal miner. Got a job offer to go and do that, and that's when I remember setting my mom down. I was 18. I was like, look,
you'd have been like the Zoolander of coal miners.
Oh man,
I got the black lung pop.
Oh man, it'd be horrible. I'd probably have 20 kids, just working the coal mines all day. And I remember sitting my mom down. I left. I had 2 college scholarships and withdrew from both of them because I was listening, like earlier on in the podcast, I was listening to everyone else. Don't put your eggs in one basket. Go get a degree. Go do this. My passion was fighting. That's what I wanted to do. I've always wanted to do that. And I was listening to everyone else. And finally, I sat my mom down right before Consol Energy in Pennsylvania is a big coal mine, big company, and they hit me up for an interview. They wanted to, bring me into the coal mines. My brother, a coal mine. My grandfather, a coal mine. My uncle's coal miners. So we come from a long line of coal miners. And for me, I was like, that's not what I had dreamed of for so long. I feel like I was selling out.
That's not your win.
That's not me. That's not me. I don't want to be a coal miner. I don't want to. Hey, I come from blue collar family.
That's immediately settling for something that's a little bit less than what you're capable of.
Exactly. My mom told me the whole time, don't settle. Don't do it with passion, do it 100%. I remember sitting her down at our dinner table. I was like, Mom, give me time. I will make it, and I will be the champion. I'll be the UFC champion. And she said, Cody, and she goes, I'm going to let you do this. Do it 100%. Just the same thing she would tell us before we could jump out of her minivan with our little Pee-wee football pads on. Go out there, work hard, give it 100%. Same thing. I was 18, and I haven't looked back, and here I am. 25 now, fighting for a world title.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Does Zach go to your fights?
Zach, every fight. My mom, every fight. My mom's never missed a fight, and she never wanted me to fight. I had kept bringing home the USA boxing application for my mom to sign, and I was getting all kinds of street fights. Finally, after probably I don't know how many. Finally, a police officer came to my house. He was like, "Look, Jessica, my mom's name. You gotta let this kid fight." Like, it wasn't like I was going out looking for trouble. It was always I never was guys. It was always around, man. Like, we grew up, fighting all the time. I've never in my life a period where I can remember a date like, oh, okay, this was this year because I fought this dude here. Remember when we drive around my hometown? Like, man, remember when we fought here, or whatever. Yeah. So it's always was fighting. I just loved it, the pureness of it, the street fights, the adrenaline, And she finally signed and came to my first fight at 14 and has not missed a fight ever since. All my boxing matches, she's been my biggest supporter, man. Without her, I wouldn't be where I'm at, Even when it was hard, I'm like, man, because she had us young, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. She had us young. Worked job, lived on her own, still got her GED, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Took care of us, got us out of, our father was abusive and, bad in the drugs, crack, heroin, whatever it was, he got any high, and she knew that she was abusive, so she wanted to get it out of that start. So she worked so hard to give us the best start that she could, and to where it was like, sometimes I was like thinking like, man, I don't know, my mom had it more rough than I did, like I'll give her a call just for like boost some morale or just to keep me motivated. So throughout this whole process, she's a call away. No matter if it's 3-4 in the morning, I'm like, man, Mom, hey, get up and do it. You're living a dream. Keep working hard. So very thankful for her and the support that all my family gives me. But definitely my mom has been my number one supporter. It's great to have her there.
Well, look forward to seeing you and the whole clan when you're fighting for the title.
Oh, the whole line of coal miners.
Yeah. Do not fuck with Team No Love.
Yeah. There's some cornbread fuckers, man.
They got some practice.
Yeah, they got some practice. Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the On It team and look forward to supporting you in any way we possibly can, brother.
I love it, man. Thanks for having me out here. It's great.
And everybody follow this man on Instagram. Follow him on all the things. All the things.
Do the damn thing.
Do the damn things. So much love. See you later, everybody. Peace.